I'm like 27 and a half, so I can give you guys like 27 and a half things I've learned by 27 and a half. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you've been around for a while, you'll recognize Benji. He just got a little haircut. Whenever he's just like recently shaven, I always have a laugh because I'm like, who are you? Like, why do you look so sophisticated? Look at him. I was actually watching a video that I made, I think like 3 years ago at this point. And it was 24 things I learned at 24. And it's so interesting to look back at it right now because I had just come out of my relationship with my ex. I just started dating my fiance, about to be husband at that point. We'd literally been dating, I think officially for like 2 weeks when I made that video. I'm gonna link it right here if you wanna check it out. It's really crazy to me that we just started dating at that point, and I feel like I kind of already knew, but also knew nothing. COVID hadn't happened yet. So much has changed. And I'm technically 27 still. And I was considering filming this video only when I turned 28. When you turn 28, you're not turning 28, you just completed 28. So technically I'm like 27 and a half. So I can give you guys like 27 and a half things I've learned by 27 and a half. I'm not gonna put that as a title because that's ridiculous and no one would click on this video. I look a little bit older. I feel a little bit older, and hopefully this advice is helpful to you, whether you're 18 or 58. Maybe you'll learn something from this. Maybe you'll agree, maybe you'll disagree. Whether you agree or you disagree, please let me know in the comments because I think that so many insightful conversations come from videos like this. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you enjoy it, and let's just get right into it. So, lesson number 1, and I feel like this is my favorite one so far, is write down the things that excite you. I recently, and by recently I mean for a year now, have started writing down whenever something gives me like those really intense butterflies. That for me has recently been like going food tasting for a wedding venue. I found last minute tickets to a concert that was sold out. Just sitting there and like screaming along every lyric to his song, it just made me feel so alive. And I'm writing this down and keeping track of it because I feel like when I lose track of, I don't want to say the point of life because that sounds horribly depressing, but when I start kind of falling into that mundane day-to-day life, I revisit that list. And sometimes I do it to kind of relive those feelings through memories. Sometimes I do it so I can go seek out some of these feelings. And it doesn't mean that I go and splurge on concert tickets, but for example, one of the things I have on that list is the feeling of diving into the ocean, like the feeling of that cold water hitting my skin. It's something that makes me feel really alive, and I can do that. I have the privilege, obviously, of being in a country where I can do that, and it's free, so I consider doing it. Highly encourage that you keep a running list of the things that really, really make you feel alive, whether that's screaming along the lyrics of your favorite song in your car, whether that's buying a trip somewhere new. Just do it, because it will really help you appreciate the little and the small things in life. Number 2 is so cliche, but it's trust the process. I'm not going to go too into depth on this one, but as I said, last time I'd made one of these, I'd just come out of a relationship. I was really feeling insecure about whether or not I'd ever find someone else, whether someone else that was better was even out there, whether anyone would even want to date me. And now I'm about to marry the love of my life. And this man is literally, like, I'm not going to sit here and gush about my fiance, but if I'd stayed in that relationship, I mean, no offense to my ex, he was a great dude, but I would just not be where I am right now. And yeah, just trust the process. Number 3 is you won't regret adopting the dog. I'm using this as a metaphor. Obviously, I don't regret adopting my dog because here we are, he's about to turn 6. What I wrote down is it applies to doing anything you love, whether you're young or old, so long as you do your research and you're committed to whatever you're doing, and hopefully you have a safety net for it. You won't regret doing it. So long as you're not doing it impulsively, so long as you're doing your research, there's a very big chance that you won't regret doing it. Number 4 is I have not regretted a single cent I've spent on travel. I know this might sound a lot like the one above, but it's a little bit different because with travel I have done a few more impulsive purchases and decisions. Mostly when I see a really, really cheap flight, obviously. And there's been times where I've seen flights on Ryanair between like here and Dublin, like Lisbon and Dublin, for like 15 euros. And I've purchased them not even knowing if I could go that day, if I had someone to watch my dogs, because I thought, you know what, if I can't get on that flight, then I lose 15 euros. even those I did not regret. So far, I've gone to so many places in my life, and I know this is a very privileged thing to be able to say, obviously. And I mentioned this in my last 24 things I learned by 24, but it really is true. I have regretted so many physical purchases, from bags to shirts. I have never regretted a trip, ever. 5 is clutter comes back. And this is a channel on minimalism and a minimalist lifestyle, but if there's something that I have not gotten used to just yet and have to remind myself constantly, is that even when I've minimized everything I think I could, things come back. And I feel like that's going to be so prevalent, especially as we move on to bigger homes, because for example, at the time I last filmed a video like this, I was living in a tiny studio, and now we have a 2-bedroom apartment. So obviously more space usually means that more things creep in. We're planning on having kids one day, and I know that with children, I've heard so many times that children are thing magnets. So I just have to remind myself constantly that decluttering is a constant process that I just have to find the time to do, even if it's just once a month. 6 is that real friends don't care how long it's been. I have friends who I haven't talked to in 5 years who got our wedding invitation and immediately booked flights from very far away just to be here on our day. And I cannot tell you how special that is. And I love them so much for it. As we progress into adulthood and stop having less of a high school and college lifestyle, things get in the way. Families, jobs, children, and real friends don't care. Real friends, you're able to call and fall right back into kind of the gist of it without having to stress out too much. Just call. Even if you feel like it's been a long time, just call, because they won't care. They'll still love you, and that's important to remember. I know that my best friend and I, Josephine, there was a time where she went on exchange to Edinburgh, and I was still in my other relationship, and I was being really bad about staying in touch with my friends, and we didn't talk for 2 years. Josie, if you're watching this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was 2 years we never talked. We didn't talk at all. And we went from living together to not talking at all for 2 years, and then nothing changed. The day we both realized, it was it's been so long since we talked to each other, let's just call. And then I had my breakup with my ex, and she just came and stayed with me for 2 weeks or a month or whatever, and we got tattoos together, and literally yeah. 7 is if they wanted to, they would. And this one's a hard lesson to learn, and it applies to everything. It applies to family, it applies to dating, it applies to bosses, it applies to everything. If they wanted to, they would. If your boss wanted to give you a bonus, he would. If the guy you just met wanted to take you on a date, he would have. If your significant other was serious about speaking your love language, they'd be doing things in order to change. And it doesn't have to be immediate, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But the reality is, when people want to help, when they want to be there for you, they will. And if they don't, maybe it's time to rethink that friendship or that date or, whatever it is. I just think that this applies to everything, and I have to remind myself of it a lot. 8 is a little bit controversial, but this is just what works for me and for us. It's okay to go to bed angry. It's okay to politely walk away from an argument. We don't have the time many times to stay up until 4 a.m., 6 a.m. fighting it out. And I found that a lot of times I'll just go to bed, I'll fall asleep because I'm completely exhausted, and I'll wake up, and sometimes we don't even remember what we were fighting about. And so I've stopped seeing the purpose of trying to hash it out to a point of perfection. My dog is barking in the background. It doesn't feel realistic to us anymore, and we are just comfortable enough in our relationship where we know that no matter when we figure things out, we will. And so neither of us is in a rush anymore to get there, if that makes sense. Number 9 is that being good with money is not a personality trait, it's a practice. Another one I had to learn the hard way. Being good with money is not something you just are, it's a thing that you do. So you could think about it if an Olympic athlete stopped training and working out, most likely they wouldn't do very well at next year's Olympics, even if they won the gold medal this year. Just stop putting into practice all of those things that you've learned along the years in terms of finances, saving, investment, spending. It's very easy to fall off the bandwagon, even if you've been great with money for the past 5 years. I've had various moments in my life where that's happened, where, I would be on track to saving everything and spending just enough, and then I'd go through a moment where I'd want to splurge and get an entire new capsule wardrobe. The point here is that you have to be consistent and get back on the horse whenever you feel yourself kind of falling off. Never stop listening to the occasional podcast or watching the occasional YouTube video or reading the occasional financial book, just refreshing, but just remember that it's a muscle and it has to be consistently trained, or else, you know, it'll end poorly. Number 10 is to get the insurance. I don't care if it's for your dogs, I don't care if it's for travel, for your house, for your work, for whatever it is, get the insurance. I have literally been able to save my dog's life because I had dog insurance, where otherwise I probably wouldn't have been able to afford it. And I just can't stress enough how much I would have been in trouble without it. I have had to go to the doctor in the States when I'm from Europe. Literally would have cost me thousands. Now I understand that this is a privilege thing as well. Like, I'm speaking from a place of someone who can afford insurances, and I know that a lot of people can't. But what I'm trying to say here is, if you're in the position to get an insurance and you're thinking, is it really worth it? Like, nah, it's fine. Nothing will happen. It might. And if it does, you'll be screwed and you'll really dislike yourself for not having gotten that insurance. So get the insurance. Number 11 is, do not dismiss the idea of therapy, even if you cannot afford an actual therapist. What I mean by this is, of course, especially if you need help, always try to see a therapist. I hope that no one's ever in a position to not be able to afford one, even when they need one. I know this is the reality for a lot of people. However, I'm also a firm believer that there are a lot of ways to educate yourself about how your brain works and how your body works without necessarily having to resort to the cost of a therapist. Of course, each case is different. And as someone who struggled with severe anxiety, there have been moments in which reading self-help books would not have helped me. And my psychologist literally saved my life. However, don't dismiss the power of having those nuggets of information stored in the back of your brain for when you might need them. Whether that's by listening, again, to a podcast, watching a YouTube video. A book I really like is The School of Life. They have a YouTube channel. I'm going to read you the back of the book because it kind of describes what the channel is about. This book is about everything you were never taught at school. It's about how to understand your emotions, find and sustain love, succeed in your career, fail well, and overcome shame and guilt. It's about letting go of the myth of a perfect life in order to achieve the genuine emotional maturity. Written in a hugely accessible, warm, and humane style, The School of Life is the ultimate guide to the emotionally fulfilled lives we all long for and deserve. Do with that what you want. For me, it's been a very important lesson. Which takes me to number 12, which I have written down as, run your wrists under cold water when you're overly angry or frustrated. I've found myself at times, either when I'm fighting with my fiance or when I'm struggling with my anxiety, feeling very big emotions, and running my wrists under cold, really icy water for a little bit really helps me kind of like snap out of that. The physical sensation of the water on my skin helps me snap out of it. Literally is the best way to explain it. And it doesn't immediately mean that I'm like back to a perfect mood, but it definitely helps me kind of reframe. It makes me very aware of just how angry I was, I guess. I could see myself using this a lot with children in the future. Like, if my baby is screaming and crying and I am just like unbearably frustrated with the situation and it's not their fault and it's not my fault, that I can put that baby in a safe place or hand it to my fiance and just go run water over my wrist and kind of let myself regroup for a little bit. 13, don't make big decisions when you're very happy or very sad. It won't end well, most likely. Could be that you just wait one day and still make the same decision you would have when you were really happy or really sad. That's okay, but allow yourself that time. A great example for us was, for example, when we first found Theo. He had a broken leg, he was covered in fleas, he was, basically abandoned. They did have food, but that was it. And we wanted to take him immediately, but we already had a dog and we traveled a lot. And so we told ourselves, look, instead of taking him home today, let's go home tonight, sleep on it. He's gonna be here tomorrow for sure. And then we'll come get him tomorrow if we decide to keep him. And we did. Like, literally, we barely slept. 5 in the morning we were in that car. But at least we gave ourselves a little bit more time to make a decision that had such a huge impact on our life. For the better, but still it could have gone the opposite direction very easily too, because it's a very big responsibility. So 14 is, don't skip out on going to the dentist even if you think you don't need to. Again, this applies to any doctor, not just the dentist. For me specifically, I don't like going to the dentist. I don't know if people actually do, but I don't. And there was nothing wrong with my teeth, but I let a lot of time pass between my last appointment and I ended up having to cluster together a bunch of different treatments and things and maintenance stuff, and it ended up being a lot more overwhelming and expensive than if I had just done it a little, like little by little over the years. This is your sign to finally make that checkup you've been meaning to make, that appointment you've been meaning to make. Pause this video, go do it right now, come back. 15 is call your loved ones. Really, do it. It's cliche, and it's cliche for a reason. I have, since the last time I posted this video, lost both my grandparents, which, if you remember that video, is something I was very afraid of having happen to me. I also lost, or we also lost, my fiance's grandma this last summer, very suddenly, and we are very grateful and glad that we didn't leave anything unsaid, that we talked to them as much as we could, we hung out with them as much as we could, and having that peace of mind to me is really important, and I think for most people as well. So call your loved ones. On that same note, take pictures and videos often. They don't have to be perfect. You don't have to look perfect. They don't have to look perfect. My favorite pictures and videos to look back on of my grandparents are the silly selfies that I would take with my grandmother. They're the videos that I took of my granddad talking about his time during the war as a child. Many of these videos he doesn't even know I was filming. I didn't film him without his consent. I would just, for example, start having a conversation with him and then put the phone down with either the voice recorder or the video, and just record him talking about his life. And I'm so grateful that I get to look back on those videos and remember his stories. And my mom found it so beautiful. It's like making me emotional to think about. My mom found it so beautiful that she could hear her dad talk forever. Record the people you love. You don't have to do it all the time, like you don't have to be paranoid about it, but make sure that it wasn't over a year that you last got a picture with somebody. You just never know, and it's just beautiful to have. 17 is get to know your elders. It's kind of in the same topic, but like, if we've learned this much at 28, 29, 38, 39, 58, 59, imagine what they've learned, and imagine what they could teach you. And one of the things I love doing right now is when my dad talks about all the trips he did when he was in his 20s. It also helped me understand where I get my travel bug from. It's just something I cherish and I feel like is a good tip. Number 18 is learn how to make 1, 2, even 3 good dishes very well, so that you always have something to fall back on, whether you're like expected to bring something to a party or you're hosting guests in your own home. It's so much easier to have a dish that you know you can do well and that people are gonna like, versus having to like look for a recipe and try it on the day and like risk that it's terrible and everyone hates it. I don't think everyone would hate it, but you know what I mean? Like, have those dishes you can fall back on. You'll thank yourself later. 19 is to buy things secondhand and sell everything you don't need. Right after I filmed the last version of this video, I moved to a different studio in Belgium, and we ended up buying all of our furniture firsthand from IKEA. I don't have a single one of those furnitures with me still. I sold it all. And 2, I lost so much money doing it, because obviously you can't sell things for the price you bought them at. If I could go back and have just bought everything secondhand that I needed because I was gonna stay there temporarily anyway, then I would have saved thousands of euros, if not more. And now I do that where there's certain things that I won't do it. For example, this desk is one of those desks that moves up and down, and because it's electronic, I did buy it new at IKEA. But for example, there's a calyx that my printer is sitting on, and I just needed a like 4x4 cube shelf for the printer, and I know that people sell those all the time, so I bought it for I think 10 euros or 15 euros secondhand. It's in brand new condition, and it costs I think 60 euros new at IKEA. So 20 is to invest in your clothes and your shoes. I'm gonna give you an example. Last year, or no, 2 years ago now, I got UGG slippers on sale for 50 euros. Usually I don't spend more than 5 or 10 euros on slippers. I'll buy them somewhere cheap like the supermarket, because I'm like, oh, they're slippers. But the problem is that those slippers never last me more than that season. So even though it's just 10 euros, if I have to buy them every 2 months, I'm still spending 50 euros or more a year on slippers. And these ones I bought for 50 euros, and they're 2 years old, and they look brand new, they feel brand new, they're holding on really well, and they probably will for another 5 years. I frankly wouldn't be surprised, especially because I can wash them. Going cheaper will many times waste you more money, so it's something that I've learned to get good at. Number 21 is that degrees are great, but they're not everything. I do have a master's degree in business communication, and I am working in online marketing, so it's directly related. But I will say that 90% of the stuff that I know and do for my job, I've learned on the job. Now, of course, I most likely wouldn't have been able to land the jobs and internships I have so far without it. But the point of this tip is to remember to never stop learning, right? Things are changing consistently. And just because you got your degree doesn't mean that you should stop reading up on that topic, staying up to date on trends, signing up for newsletters that talk about whatever you're interested in. If you're going into your first job right now and you just got your master's degree, don't be scared that you're not going to know what the hell you're doing, because most people who start on a new job don't know what the hell they're doing. It's okay not to know everything, and don't ever stop learning just because you got your degree, because it's not the end of the road. 22 is one that I'm working on still, but it is that productive rest is not rest. If you're watching your show, ordering your groceries on your phone, you're not resting, you're ordering groceries. There's nothing wrong with doing this occasionally. I'm guilty of doing this all the time. I'll be answering emails with friends in the background, I'll be ordering groceries or doing laundry or whatever, but just remind yourself to also rest, to just sit and read the book, to take a 10-minute nap, to take 5 minutes out of your day to meditate. Productive rest is just productiveness. It's not resting. It's maybe slower productiveness, but it's not resting. Number 23 is really oddly specific, but it works for me, and it is to air tag everything. I have an air tag on my dogs. I have an air tag in my luggages. I have an air tag on everything, because bags in airplanes get lost all the time. If my luggage doesn't arrive, I'm able to check what airport is it in, where is it lost, and how can I get it back, right? If my luggage gets lost, I can tell them, look, I can see that it's still in this airport. With my dogs, it's just the peace of mind that if they were to ever run away for whatever reason, all they'd have to do is end up around or near someone with an iPhone or a MacBook or something. So I'd have an idea of where they are. It's not precise, it's not like a GPS tracker, but it's so much easier to look for a dog in a specific area than have to look everywhere for them. I air tag everything. Do with that advice what you want to do. I don't know. Maybe it means like add tags to everything, even if it's just traditional bag tags with your name and address, or if your dogs have the little collars. You don't have to go and buy air tags just because I told you to, but just label things, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. 24, always have a paracetamol on you and an Imodium on you. For those of you who are watching me and you're not from Europe, or this doesn't make sense to you, painkillers and diarrhea medicine. I know it's not glamorous, but it is what it is. It fits in your wallet. You don't have to have more than one on you, but I'm telling you, it's one of those things that when you need it immediately, and you don't want to not have it. I learned the Imodium one the hard way. I was in LA on the metro trying to get home wearing a dress when my stomach started making very weird sounds and making me feel like I had to go to the bathroom immediately. And I was in a metro and there's no bathrooms, and I was like, this might be the end. I might just poop myself in front of all these people. And from that moment onwards, I never left the house without one of those like rapid acting medications for if it ever happens. I've saved countless of people with it as well, that were feeling really bad, and I had the medicine to give to them. Obviously, don't medicate your friends, but you know, and painkillers, like you never know when you're gonna get a raging headache, and it's just better to have. So that's my advice. 25 is that you're allowed to stop loving the things you used to swear by. For me, the example here is I used to love traveling solo. I used to swear by it. You probably heard me tell you so many times that traveling solo is so good for you and an awesome experience. I don't take that back. I think it was awesome for me. I think it was an awesome experience. Would I do it now that I'm about to be married to the love of my life, who I love traveling with and never get tired of traveling with? No, I wouldn't do that anymore. If I have the option to go with him, I will. Not to say that I won't ever do it again. That's the beauty of it. Just because you love something today doesn't mean you'll love it tomorrow, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you don't know what you love, or it just means you're constantly changing. Like, as human beings, we are constantly evolving. I'm pretty sure you can relate to the fact that you're not who you were 10 years ago. I'm not who I was at 18, right? So don't be too harsh on yourself if you've been telling people all about something you love and then suddenly it doesn't serve you anymore. It's normal and it's okay. 26 is a bit of like a traveler recommendation, but it is to, when you can, let cheap flights dictate where you go. We are going to Japan in a month from now, actually, and we decided to go to Tokyo in this case because it was the cheapest destination available for those dates. So what I recommend doing is going on either Skyscanner or Google Flights. They both have that option. You guys will not believe this, but my camera had stopped filming for a while and I didn't notice, so I'm going to tell you 27 just like this. 27 is that it's your wedding day, do it your way. We recently just got married, as some of you might know, and one of the things that I am most thankful for doing is that me and my fiance, now husband, did everything exactly how we wanted. We did not listen to anybody's opinion, and that might sound kind of rough, but the reality is that we had the day of a lifetime. We will never forget it, and we're so grateful that we did it. And then 28, last but not least, is to always remember that setting boundaries will almost always make you feel uncomfortable, and actually is a pretty good sign that you're doing it right. So don't be afraid to set them even when they make you feel uncomfortable, because they're very important for your well-being. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see some more of me, and I'm very excited to see you around next time. Bye!